Hello, my name is Giovanni English, and my final presentation is, are red flag laws negatively affecting citizens? What are these laws? Red flag laws allow a court to issue a temporary emergency removal order to seize guns, typically between 14 to 45 days, in order to determine whether the owner possesses a serious threat to himself or others. A subsequent order can result in the removal of guns for a longer period, in some states up to a year, upon showing that the person continues to pose a threat to themselves or others. The whole purpose of these laws are to reduce gun-related violence in our country. With that being said, using law enforcement or family members to report a person who's exuding certain behaviors that could be detrimental to themselves or the people around them. Red flag laws in the states. Here's a list, or it's gonna be a chart of a bunch of states in our country that have red flag laws. Some include California, Colorado, Illinois, New York. The DMV area makes up of Delaware, Maryland, and DC, as well as Florida. Mandate 1. The purpose of red flag laws is to reduce mass shootings and other gun-related crimes before they occur. However, there's no direct correlation that suggests a decrease in crime rates due to these laws. Underwhelming results across multiple states. A compelling case study in the District of Columbia suggests that in the 10 months since the law took effect, no petitions have been filed. In California, which similar to DC, has a red flag law, was barely noticeable during the first 2 years after it took effect. In a state of nearly 40 million people, there were 10 or fewer petitions typically filed per month for 2016 and much of 2017. With that being said, California is a huge state, millions of residents, with cities that have high gun violence. Look at LA, Compton, things that cities like that. Then as well in the District of Columbia, you have Washington DC, which also has a huge inner city gun violence rates. So to see that a very small amount of people petitioned to have their residents or family members firearms removed for even a temporary block of time is very strange and underwhelming. Mandate 2, the impacts on the gun owner's rights without substantial evidence of committing a crime or attempting to commit a crime. Due process concerns. Civil and gun rights activists have protested that the seizures violate the U.S. Constitution's due process guarantee, meaning residents have a right to fully argue their case in court. Also, is to argue that case in court with fair treatment. Most red flag laws are vague on what constitutes a significant danger, which gives courts broad discretion to seize firearms, says Kendra Paris, civil defense attorney, Paris Law, PA. She also states, and in some states, respondents are not guaranteed representation in court since these are civil and not criminal matters. In the United States, if you can't afford an attorney, one will be provided to you by the government. But that only really happens in a criminal trial. Since red flag laws are dealing on a civil level, if you can afford an attorney, you're at a disadvantage in terms of arguing your point or arguing your case in court, which is not fair at all. Mandate 3, producing legislation beneficial to law-abiding citizens and derailed individuals who should not own firearms. Red flag laws only reduce suicides. Key findings. One study found the firearm suicide dropped in Connecticut and Indiana, two of the earliest states to adopt the laws, by 13.7% and 7.5% respectively. Now, after looking further into this case study, there was a chart created by every town for towngunsafety.org. In Connecticut, which first implemented red flag laws in 1999 all the way up to 2017, there were only 1,560 petitions filed, which on average is about 86 per year. From 2018, that number went to 268, 2019 went to 250, 2020 went to 200. So from going at an annual rate of less than 100 per year to double, almost triple, that's a bit high. And by the studies and the charts, it would suggest that 2018 there was a Parkland shooting, which was unfortunate, but again, that's more pertaining to a mental health issue in our country than an actual gun violence issue in our country. Respectively, for Indiana as well, they didn't see a spike like this until 2018 and further on. Nothing, 20 years prior. Evidence showed that temporarily removing guns from people in crisis can reduce the risk of firearm suicide. However, this data suggests that the U.S. has a public health problem, not a gun violence issue. Here are some links to my sources. Final thoughts. For law-abiding citizens, this can negatively affect them because if you have a neighbor that doesn't like you very much, they know that you like firearms and you like to go shooting, they can potentially waste your time dragging you to court to plead your case on a matter that shouldn't really need to be discussed on. Also, red flag laws does seem to help with suicides. In our country, gun-related deaths, at 60% in our country, of the 60%, of the 100%, 6% of them are suicides. So they are helping with that, and that should be the focus of these laws if we're going to implement them. If we are going to implement them, we need to change the way we do that. We should focus on helping people with a mental health issue instead of just focus on gun-related violence. My name is Ronnie English. Thank you for the presentation.